Why are we having this referendum on the voting system? And why STV? Well, I think there are a number of good reasons for that. Obviously, the two anomalous elections, 1996 and 2001. But it's not just those results. I mean, there's a problem in our political system. Politicians know it. The public is not engaged. They don't know as much about the details of politics. They're not participating in the meetings. They're not coming out to the sessions. They're not voting in the elections. And a lot of people are freaked out about this. We are suffering through a crisis of legitimacy. And governments, right or left, recognize that if they're going to have their policies accepted as legitimate, we've got to get the public involved in the deliberation, in the choices, in the discussion. And I think that's why we're seeing parties and politicians even reach for something that's a bit scary, like voting system reform. The existing system, first past the post, isn't serving us very well. You know, if we think of the basic ideas of democracy, what are the most essential elements? And, you know, we call our system a representative democracy. So we might think that the standards for representation should be set pretty high. Our system fails miserably in doing its most basic job, which is representing what people have said with their votes. We know that people are voting for the party choices that are on offer. Our system should really accurately represent what those choices are. Our system should be competitive. It should let new voices in if that's what people want. So I think our system is failing in terms of being a representative democracy. And of course, then that raises questions about just how democratic is our system if it's not representative. The other thing that our system is really failing on is a really basic idea about democracy, which is majority rule. Most people would agree that, let's represent a lot of different opinions, but when it comes right down to it, we have to make a decision, then the majority should rule. Let's take a vote, and whoever's got 50% plus one of the votes, wins that vote. Well, our system violates this almost every time. I mean, how often have we seen a government that has a majority of the votes? 2001? 1928? I mean, you've got to go all the way back to 1928 in British Columbia to find a government that observes this most basic idea about majority rule. I say representative democracy, why don't we try it for a change? I say majority rule, why don't we try it for a change? A lot of people are concerned about strategic voting. Is strategic voting a problem? I mean, all voting systems have elements of strategic voting, but I like to talk about positive and negative strategic voting. Positive strategic vote is when you say to yourself, I got a bunch of choices ahead of me. Any one of them is viable. Which one would I like to choose to get the policy results that I want? And maybe you'd think, I need to vote for this party this time and not for that party. Then there's negative strategic voting. Negative strategic voting is when you kind of feel like, well, I like this person, but I don't think they can win. And if I did vote for them, I might actually help someone I really don't like get elected. So I better vote for the person that, it's not that I like them, but I don't hate them as much as the other one. So I'll vote for them. I mean, what kind of approach to democracy is this? Surely we want people to come into the political system with a sense of excitement and energy and positiveness about the choices that they're going to make. So strategic voting, our current system is a negative strategic voting system. STV would offer all sorts of positive strategic voting opportunities for BC voters. There's a lot of people who think that if we change our voting system, we'll address this kind of long-standing problem about voter apathy, about declining voter turnout. And I think people have to tone down their expectations a bit. It's one of the claims that doesn't actually stand up very well. We do see higher voter turnout in proportional systems, about 7-8% higher than in first-past-the-post systems, our system. But we've seen declining voter turnout across all systems, PR and our system. And that's a problem that is beyond the voting system. It involves the way that people are mobilized into politics. It involves changes in the way that parties relate to voters. So if we switch to a different voting system here in British Columbia, I don't think people should expect a major change in voter turnout at the aggregate level. But there's a silver lining. There's an interesting change that we might expect to see. The recent voting system change in New Zealand, they changed to a proportional system. Not much change in the aggregate figures on voter turnout, but the individuals within that group did change. So the people who vote on the basis of the horse race, oh, it's all or nothing, get out here and vote, voters that don't actually tend to know very much about politics, they don't like PR as much, and they don't participate. But what they found in New Zealand was that people who voted on principled reasons, people who were well-informed, people who said, I don't want to participate if my vote won't count, well, they do come out under PR. So even though we might not see a big splash in terms of the aggregate figures on turnout, we may see an important change. And if we think that's important, if we think it's important to bring people into our system who feel alienated now, people who know something about politics, then STV could make a big difference in our elections. It's tough to look into a crystal ball and say what the future results of STV might be. Some people will look at past results and they'll kind of map that with the new system and they'll say, well, there you go, that's what we'd get. But that's not what we'd get. The rules of the game influence the decisions that people make. When people think, oh God, voting for Greens, I'm going to waste my vote. Well, if they knew under STV they wouldn't be wasting their vote, more people might make that choice. So it stands to reason that under STV, given that, even under our current system, the Greens have gotten, 9%, 12% of the popular vote, yeah, I would expect that Greens are going to get elected in this province under STV. But I think it's important for people not to think that this is just about minor parties, small parties, new parties. It's also the supporters of the big parties. We might be surprised how many Liberals are in East Vancouver. We might be surprised how many New Democrats are lurking in West Vancouver and other bastions of privilege and wealth. I mean, our current system creates these incentives where people just think, oh, why bother? It's never going to change. I'm never going to have any influence over the results. So STV is going to be a journey of discovery. We are going to find out a whole bunch of things about our communities that we might not have known. We might discover that our communities are a lot more politically pluralist than we've been led to believe by the election results that we've seen. So we don't know. But I think that we'll probably see our major parties continue to be major parties. I think we'll see new ideas emerge as the people of British Columbia want those ideas. And those parties will be judged on how well they can get the people's business done.